Hi there, welcome to That Board Game Show. My name is James Wood, and today I'm going to show you Atlantis Rising, a cooperative game for 1 to 7 players, in which we will be racing against time to rescue the people of Atlantis as it crumbles and sinks around us, by building this cosmic gate before time runs out. At its core, Atlantis Rising is a worker placement game, which means we're going to be taking our pool of workers, each player will have their own set, and we're going to be placing them on these various worker placement spaces on the board to perform various actions. The actions are going to be mainly gathering resources that we need to build these components in the cosmic gate. Once we have built all 9 of these components, we then need to construct the power core, at which point we will win the game. Before we can do that though, we may lose the game if the entire island of Atlantis sinks. So it really is a race against time, and it takes some very clever planning and careful arranging to get your workers in the right places at the right times to get all the resources you need to build all these components. So I'm going to show you how all this works by playing through the solo game today, and I'll explain the differences between the solo play and a multiplayer game as I go. There's actually variants for 1 player, 2 player, and 3 players, and then 4 through 7 players is the standard game. So basically all those variants for 1, 2, and 3 players are doing is giving you some automated workers and things that you can use to help you along, because you're working with a slightly smaller pool of workers to get all the different actions done. So with that said, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to dive in and start playing, and I'll explain how the game plays and the various rules as I encounter them. At the start of the game, each player will be dealt 1 counselor board. And all of these counselor boards, as I'll show you here with the priestess, are double-sided, so you've got a female side and a male side. And there's no functional difference between the 2 sides, it's purely an artistic choice, and you can decide which side you want to play. So each player will be given their counselor board at the start of the game, and they'll pick a side. So today I will be playing as the champion. Let's show you the champion over here. And again, the champion can be female or male. I just so happen to like the artwork on this side, so this is what I'll be playing with today. So that gives me a special ability that I will be using as we play. So the champion's special ability is when a tile your leader is on floods, all Atlanteans on that tile may immediately take the action for that tile before being returned to their counselor's pool. That may sound like a lot of gibberish to you right now. It will make sense as we play. And then a unique element in the solo game is that you'll see I've got 2 counselor boards in front of me here. And this counselor board is what they call the hologram. And this is represented by this translucent acrylic piece over here. So this piece is basically an additional worker that has the ability of whichever counselor board you have for that turn. At the start of each turn, you're going to draw 2 counselor boards, and you're going to pick one to be the one that represents the hologram for that turn. So this is just simulating another player potentially being at the table. So let's look at these 2 and decide which one we're going to keep. We have the Guardian. When a tile in the same peninsula as your leader is about to be flooded, you may prevent this tile from flooding by returning your leader to your pool without taking its own action. And that brings me to something to point out, is you'll see over here I've got a big worker, and then these 4 smaller workers. This big worker is referred to as your leader, and then these 4 smaller workers are referred to as Atlanteans. This silvery worker over here is called the automaton. I'll come to that in a moment. For right now, we've got the Guardian or the Priestess. Each Atlantean on a tile with your leader may re-roll a single failed roll. So let's actually play with the Priestess this time. Again, remembering that these are all double-sided. So that is what the hologram will be representing. This one we didn't pick gets discarded off to the side. And the hologram is also used in a 2-player game. So it simulates a 3rd player for a 2-player game, and it simulates a 2nd player for a solo game. The other unique element of the solo game is that I have this automaton figure over here, and this can help me with various actions. I'll explain how this works as I do an action, because it will make more sense when you see it in actual gameplay. And one final element that is unique to solo play is at the beginning of each turn, I gain 1 mystic energy from the supply, which I can add over here. Everyone starts the game with 1 mystic energy, depending on the difficulty level you choose. So at the easiest difficulty level, everyone starts with 2 mystic energy. At the hardest difficulty level, you start with 0. And today I'm playing on the intermediate difficulty level, which means every player starts with 1 mystic energy, and it slightly adjusts how this misfortune deck is set up. So with all of that out the way, let's start with the first turn. So I've got my starting resources here, and now the first thing to do in a round is place Atlanteans. I have my 5 Atlanteans over here, plus the automaton and the hologram. So now I have to choose what I'm going to do. So one thing you have to think carefully about when you're choosing where to place your workers is that these tiles you will see are all different pieces along the board, and they can flip over as the island of Atlantis floods. So if you place your workers on these very end spaces, you'll see that they very often give you the best rewards, but they have the highest likelihood of flooding. If an island tile floods that has your workers on it, then they get sent home. You don't lose them for the game. They come back to your board. And you do not get to do the actions that you had assigned workers to for that round. So it's a little bit of a gamble every time you're placing your workers out. So right now, I know that I need a lot of resources for all of these components. One little strategy tip I've picked up from playing this game is it's quite a good thing to count the different resources you're going to need, so you can keep track of which peninsulas of the island you need to go to collect resources from. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to count out the resources required. So I'm going to see gold here needs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So in total, to build all of these components, which is how we win the game, I need 15 gold. I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 crystals. And I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 Atlantium, which is the metal found in Atlantis. So having counted all of that out, I now know that I need the most gold. And I'm going to send my leader to this space over here, because if that tile floods, my champion's special ability means that I can retrieve my leader and do its action before the tile floods. So I'm not going to lose the chance to do that action. Then, because I know I need lots of gold, I'm actually going to send a couple more people. Now you'll see that there's 2 spaces over here that both give gold, and they both only require a 4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send 2 workers over to there, because that tile is less likely to be flooded, and it's giving me the same odds of getting gold. Then I'll send one of my workers over here, and you'll see that this space has a joined worker placement spot. So 2 workers have to go to this space. And this space is the cities of Atlantis, and this is where you can go to recruit more workers from the Atlantean supply over here. So these 3 workers are set off to the side at the beginning of the game. You will have slightly different numbers of workers depending on player count. And when I go over here, I roll both dice, and then I need to get 7 or more in order to recruit one of my extra workers, thereby giving me another worker to use for actions in future turns. So that's quite a good thing to do right out the gate at the early game. So I'm going to send one of my workers over there, and because it's a combined thing, I have to send 2, but they don't both have to be mine. So if I were playing a multiplayer game, another player could come along and help me, or playing the solo game, I'm going to send this hologram off there to help, because their special ability as the priestess means that if I fail to roll 7, I can re-roll the dice and get another shot at it. And then for my final worker placement space, I'm going to take 1 Atlantean over there, and I'm going to use the automaton. So how the automaton helps is when you place it on the same tile as another Atlantean, it adds +2 to any roll done by that other Atlantean. It doesn't represent a worker on its own, so you can't send this off on its own to do anything. And it also doesn't count as an additional worker in this space. So I'm not going to do this action twice. I'm just going to do it once, but this worker here will have +2 added to whatever they roll, thus increasing my likelihood of succeeding to collect crystal. So that is the end of step 1, which is place Atlanteans. You'll see I've run out of Atlanteans in front of me. Now we proceed to step 2, which is suffer misfortunes. So now we will draw cards from this misfortune deck, and this will tell us what parts of the island sink, or potentially other catastrophes could strike. So the number of cards I'm going to draw from here is always at least 4. So in a solo game today, I'll draw 4 cards and resolve them one at a time. In a 2-player game, you'll draw 2 cards each going around. So one player will draw 1 card, the other player will draw 1, and back and forth. In a 3-player game, you'll draw 1 card each, and then the start player will draw an extra one. And then in 5, 6, or 7 players, you'll simply draw 1 misfortune card per player. So that is one way it scales the difficulty depending on player count. So what are these misfortunes after all? So let's draw one and you'll find out. The first one is the libraries. So now the libraries sink. So we come over to the libraries peninsula over here. And none of these are labeled, but you pretty quickly get to match what the art looks like. And we flip that over, and that tile has been lost to the ocean. So that little part of Atlantis has crumbled away and been flooded. And that is the first of our 4 misfortunes. Let's discard those over there. We'll draw another one, and it is the forges. Dun dun! Our forges have been somewhat extinguished. And I haven't gone here, so I'll explain quickly how this location works. The forges is where we make Atlantium. So you'll see that on the mountains over here, we collect iron ore. Now, none of the components we require need iron ore, but almost all of them need some Atlantium. So the way we get Atlantium is we come here and collect iron ore, and then we have to come over here and convert that into Atlantium in the forges. Sadly though, our best place to do that has just been extinguished by the rising tide. Oh dear. Or the sinking island. Okay, next misfortune is the hills. Okay, that's not good because that is this space over here. But fortunately, I have sent my leader there, which is my champion, who can do this action before we resolve that misfortune card. Had that been a normal worker, had this been one of my regular workers over here, this worker would be sent home, I would flood that tile, and I wouldn't get to do that action. But fortunately, I'm using the ability of my champion, so I will immediately resolve this action, and then we will flood that tile. How I resolve it is I will roll a single die, and I am looking for 3 or greater. So I need at least a 3. And I rolled 4. Great. Okay, so that was successful. My champion managed to grab a couple nuggets of gold before the island got swept out from under her feet. So I get 1 gold from the supply. And this tile is flooded. And my champion comes gasping back from getting her feet wet. You get your feet wet a lot in this game. So that was 3 of the 4 misfortunes we have to resolve. Let's resolve the 4th one. And it is a special misfortune, which is Divine Fury. Advance the Wrath of the Gods track by 1 step. Oh dear. So that track is this one over here. You can see they match the artwork. The art in this game is quite stunning, as I'm sure you can see. So we advance the Wrath of the Gods track 1 step, and you will find out at the end of the round why that's bad. And these mystic energy beads over here are here to remind you in the solo game that you get 1 mystic energy at the start of each round. Because at the end of each round, you advance the Wrath of the Gods track 1 step. So it just helps you to remember when playing solo that each time you bump into one of those, you get that extra mystic energy for the next round. So that was the Suffer Misfortune step. Now we proceed to take actions, which is now when we resolve all the actions that we assigned our workers to. And you can choose the order in which you resolve them. There's no hard and fast rule that it's the first player, second player, third player, or you have to do this one, then this one. You can choose as a group which spaces to resolve and in which order. And it doesn't even have to be all of one player's spaces. The reason I make that point is because sometimes it can be pretty important that you have the right resources. For instance, if you want to come over to the forges here, you need iron ore. If you have no iron ore, you have to first come over here to gather. So you would need to resolve this before this. So sometimes the timing of your actions can be quite important. Right now at the beginning of the game, it doesn't make a huge difference. So let's just go clockwise around the board. Okay, I'm going to start with this space closest to me, which is to get some more gold. My other Atlanteans go digging in the hills. There is gold in them there hills, I'm sure of it. And apparently there isn't. Oh dear. Okay, so he came home empty-handed. Oh no, sorry family, I couldn't find any. Try again. And his brother's hanging out there looking for some more, and look at that. Unfortunately, you don't get more gold the higher you roll. But, oh well, we got some more gold, that's very good. So that gets added to our supply. Whoops. And people jumping all over the place with excitement. And then we will resolve this space, remembering that I just do it once, but I have +2 to my die roll. Looking for some crystals off in the forests over there. And we've got 4 + 2 is 6, so that is successful. We get a crystal from the supply, and both of these come home, because the automaton is just a little robot that goes along to help out. And then finally, we will roll this space. And now we roll 2 dice, and we add the number on the Wrath of the Gods track. So you'll see that these numbers get higher as you go. But as this increases each round, it makes it a little bit more likely for you to succeed at this. So it does make it quite possible that you'll get it, especially considering that 7 is the most likely number to roll with 2 dice. And because I got the priestess over there, if I fail on my first roll, I can roll again and try a second time. So let's see. That is 9, which is a lot more than 7. So I get one of my Atlanteans from the supply there. They come home. The hologram gets sent off to the side over there. And that is the end of the take actions phase. Now, there's a couple bonus actions you can do with Mystic Energy, and I'll explain how those work when I have enough Mystic Energy to use to do them. You may have noticed this little yellow cylinder over here. That has no gameplay function. It's just there as a reminder for when you're playing with 5, 6, 7 players, which player is which color. Because once you've placed all your pieces out on the board, it can get a little bit confusing. So this cylinder here is purely for that purpose. You just keep it here on your counselor board to remind everyone what color you are playing. So we now proceed to the Wrath of the Gods step. So we endure the Wrath of the Gods, and we move this along one more step. So now we'll move it to there. And I'm just going to slide these over so that I'm not confusing matters, because it's already advanced 1. I will get this Mystic Energy for the next round. Remembering that's unique to the solo game. And now we have to flood 1 tile. During this step, you'll see it's 1 tile now, then it's 2, then 2, then 3. We as a group, everyone at the table, has to now decide which tile we're going to let go to the gods. So the gods are angry with the Atlanteans because the Atlanteans have put all their faith in technology and turned away from the gods, and the gods are not happy about this. So they are letting vent their anger by flooding the island and sinking it into oblivion. So which tile are we going to sacrifice up to them? I think we're going to sacrifice up this city tile because I've already gained one of my extra workers. There's only 2 more to gain over here, and I've got this automaton which can help me with die rolls. So I'm going to let the gods take out their pent-up anger on the cities over there, and that is the end of the first round. Okay, so now proceeding to round 2, I will place my Atlanteans. One thing I'm going to do is place one of them in the middle over here, and any Atlanteans you place in the central space of the island, this represents like the capital city of Atlantis, will gather 1 mystic energy. So then I'll be able to have enough mystic energy to do this special action, which is to place a mystic barrier, which is this over here. I have this one in a little standee. All the rest of them are just lined off to the side here, because I think they'll be more clear on the board like so. Basically what these do is they prevent tiles from flooding. So if you have a mystic barrier on a peninsula, you will stop that tile from flooding once per mystic barrier you have. So if you were to draw the hills again, instead of flooding a tile, you would simply discard this mystic barrier. So that's one thing you can use your mystic energy for. So it's quite a good idea to come to the middle here and gather more. The other thing you can use is you can at any time spend a mystic energy to add to your die roll. So if you are trying to do this and you need 4 and you only roll 2, you can spend 2 mystic energy to get the 2 you need to succeed. The one thing I skipped over before starting round 2 is I was meant to discard this counselor board and draw 2 more from the supply over here and pick one to be the representative of the hologram for this round. So let's see the ones we've got. We have the explorer or the scholar, and there's their female side and their male side. And what do they do for us? The scholar, during setup, before selecting artifacts for the library deck, randomly select one of the artifacts containing the scholar icon. That is referring to cards over here in the library deck. There are certain special cards from the library that are considered artifacts. So if you choose this counselor during a solo or 2-player game, you take one of the artifacts that are left in the box because you only use a certain number in here. But let's see what the explorer can do for us. When your leader is on a tile in a wild peninsula, the target number for that tile is reduced by 1. That's a bit more straightforward to use, so that's the one I'm going to pick today. So that's going to go there, and that represents our hologram. And just a note on the library cards, these are basically free bonus special actions that you can use to help you out during the game. So they're going to either give you resources or let you unflood tiles. They can be very, very powerful, but they're also a little tricky to get. The normal library cards are one-time use effects, and the artifacts, which is what the scholar refers to, are special library cards that you keep in front of you and they give you an extra benefit throughout the game, like your printed counselor effect. So maybe I should try go gather one of those. Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to send one of my workers off here to gather a library card so I can show you what those look like. Then I'm going to send a couple of workers over here to gather some iron ore because we need to start forging Atlantium. I think I will send my leader over here to forge that Atlantium and hope that these 2 succeed, although they do only have to roll 3, so their odds are pretty good. I don't think I'm actually going to put this one here because then I'm going to run out of spaces for these things to be effective. So I'm going to go gather some crystal over there and I'm going to send the hologram with. And I'm going to come over here to collect some gold, and I'm actually going to swap those around. I'm going to send the hologram over there, and I'm going to send the automaton over there to try and get some more crystal. So we're trying to gather as many resources as I can. And the hologram over here, unlike the automaton, will do its own action. And this particular one only applies to the tile that it's on. So right now, I only need to roll a 3 for this tile. But if I were to send workers over there or over there, they would still need to roll the normal number. And I think I'm happy with all those placements. Let's suffer misfortunes and see how bad it gets, shall we? Okay, so first thing we do is flood the forges. Oh dear. So that's very bad because my champion is over there. So I would be able to do that action before the tile gets flooded, but I have no ore. So assigning a champion there without ore was probably a bad idea, but oh well. Glug, 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 and my champion comes spluttering home, and they come home empty-handed this time as well. Tut, tut. Okay, that was 1. Second one is the libraries. Oh dear. Our libraries go glug, 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 glug. Not good. Fortunately, I placed my guy there and not there. That's 2. The forges go splashing into the ocean again. Big clouds of steam because it's fire and water blending and all kinds of travesties happen over there. And last card, things are looking pretty bad, and there's an even worse one. An earthquake. This round, all target numbers are increased by 1. Oh, bothersome. Bothersome, bothersome, bothersome. Okay, so now basically the explorer just makes that back to a 4. Everything's increased by 1. That's not good. Okay, so now we have suffered misfortunes. Now we take actions. So the first action I'm going to do is I'm going to resolve this library action here because it doesn't require rolling any dice. It is a guaranteed success, as long as your people don't get wet feet trying to get some books. And now on this space, we will draw 2, keep 1, and place the other one at the bottom of the deck. You'll see on this bottom space over here, you would draw 2 and keep both of them. And then as the libraries get more and more flooded, you have to draw 2, keep 1, and discard the other. And there's no way to get them back out of the discard pile, apart from some fringe case special cards and things. So once they're discarded, they're gone. Okay, so let's see what we've got. We've got an Elysian stone. This is one of those artifacts we were talking about earlier. You see how it's got the blue back on it. And the Law of Balance. Okay, so what are we going to keep? The Elysian Stone will let you, at the beginning of each round, draw and keep 1 library card. That's very handy. I might just hang on to that one. Or Law of Balance, draw and play a misfortune. So you would immediately play one of those, then unflood 1 tile anywhere on the island. That could be quite helpful, but you do have to suffer a misfortune in order to do it. So I'm going to keep this one because then I can cycle through this library deck without having to send workers here. That is great. So this was a really good one to draw early on. I'm just going to keep it off to the side there. The discarded ones I'm going to discard over there. And that was my first worker. Let's do some more. So let's come over here and I'm looking for 3s. But wait, I'm looking for 4s because of an earthquake. The ground is shaking and everyone's taking a bit of strain. Oh dear. And we rolled 4. Yay! We found some iron ore in spite of the grumbly ground underneath our feet. Okay, next one. Trying for some more. And that is a 3. Phooey. Okay, so that would have been a success if we weren't having an earthquake. But I am going to spend 1 mystic energy to make that a 4 so that I can succeed at that action because we need this stuff to make Atlantium, although we really need to unflood some of these tiles somehow, which we can do by spending 5 mystic energy. And we get mystic energy, remember, by going to the central space over here. So it might be an idea to just send a whole bunch of workers there, get mystic energy, and unflood some of these. Because now we convert ore to Atlantium at a 1-to-1 rate. Whereas down here, at this endpoint, we can convert at a 1-to-3 rate. Much more effective. But sadly, that part of the forge is underwater now. Okay, so Explorer reduces it by 1, but that increases it by 1, so we are still looking for 4 over here. Looking for some gold in them there hills. And we got a 6. Right. Easily found it. Get some more gold. And now the hologram will take their turn. And they got a 4. I'm going to do it. I'm going to spend another Atlantium to make that 3 into a 4. And get another gold. And then over here, we are looking for 6. Ouch. Fortunately, I have the automaton, so it's +2 to whatever I roll. And I just got it. Whoa! Managed to scrape out a little shaving of crystal from under a rock somewhere. Wowzers. Okay. So, there we have the end of the action phase for round 2. Now, we must endure Wrath of the Gods. We advance the track 1 step. We get our mystic energy for next round. And we must now flood 2 tiles. Oh dear. I think we can afford to lose a bit of this gold, so we'll flood that one. We're doing quite well with our die rolls. Watch me jinx it now and start rolling terribly. And I think we can afford to lose this one because these are all pretty low numbers. So those are quite easy to deal with. That is the end of the round. I will discard this counselor and we'll bring in a new one. to represent the hologram for this round. We have the Mystic and the Seafarer. And once again, double-sided, double art, and you'll see that the Mystic over here doesn't have a male or female side, so this is a non-binary character, which just shows it at different ages. And what are their special abilities? We've got the Mystic, allows us to, when another Atlantean on the same tile as your leader fails their action, you may remove your leader without taking its own action to allow the other Atlantean to succeed instead of fail. That could be quite helpful. So basically the hologram would go along with another worker, and if that worker fails their role, you can remove the hologram and succeed instead of fail. So that could be quite a good one. Or the Aquanaut, or Seafarer. Oh, I see they've got different names on some of them. First time I've noticed that. You may place your leader on any flooded tile. That tile is available for use this round by anyone, following usual placement rules. When any tile in that peninsula floods, treat the tile with your leader as though it is also flooded. That is very helpful because it means we can go use the forges. So I'm going to use the Aquanaut. Bye-bye, Mystic. You'll be helpful another day. And the Aquanaut is going to help us go diving here into the forges and convert some of our ore to Atlantium at a much better rate than previously. So, let's do that. I'm going to send the Aquanaut here. Now, what I could do is send the hologram to this space and convert at a 1-to-3 rate. But what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to rather send my Aquanaut over here to this tile. It's only a 1-to-2 rate, but it's got 2 spaces instead of just 1. So I can send one of my workers along with her to go also convert, and then I'm converting 2-to-2. It's not quite as good, but it's a more efficient use of time because I only have this counselor for this round. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put that over there, and I'm going to put one of mine over there, and this is a guaranteed thing because this tile now can't flood. If I draw the forges, I will simply flood the next tile in the chain. And what else? I think I've got enough resources now for me to go try build something. So I'm going to send one of my workers over here to the cosmic gate board, and they're going to try build one of these components. And I'm also going to go try get some more crystals because I can see a lot of these need crystals, and I'm starting to get a bit low on that. I'm going to do my automaton trick again. I'm going to go there with my worker and the automaton. I'm going to send my leader over here so that I can do that action if that tile floods. Oh, I am forgetting, at the beginning of each round, draw a card. I almost completely forgot about that. So I get a library card, which is Virtue of Sharing. All players may immediately exchange any number of resources, mystic energy, or library cards with other players. That is not very helpful in a solo game, but oh well, I'll just set it off to the side there. And let's see what I'm going to do with my last 2 workers. I could send them over to the cities to try recruit some more Atlanteans to my cause. Or I could come here and get some more mystic energy. I'm not going to waste workers going to the library because I've got this artifact that's helping me get more cards there. So I think the best thing I can do is just come here with one of them and try to get some more ore for Atlantium later. And roll the dice and hope for the best by coming here to get some more gold. Right. Okay, so that's it. Now, suffer misfortunes. We will suffer misfortunes in the cities. The cities go bye-bye, glug, 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 splash. That is 1. This is 2. A special card, Darkness. Discard 9 cards from the top of the library deck. Oh no! One of our libraries burns down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Ah! And remember, once these are discarded, they are gone. So that's not good. And that was only our second card. So this is number 3. Calm Seas. So, nothing happens. Nice and peaceful. So that is one of the ways you dial up or down the difficulty of the game, is how many of these cards are in the deck. So on the level I'm playing today, there are 6 Calm Seas cards, and there are 6 Controlled Flood cards, which basically flood a lot more things than just a single. So that's kind of equal balances either way. Okay, so card number 4 is the hills. The hills go bye-bye. No, my person doesn't get to do their action. Oh, phooey. Glug, 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 glug. Splash. That's a shame. Oh dear. They were too busy looking at the gold that they were trying to dig up that they didn't see the waves crashing in behind them. Right, so that is 4 misfortune cards. Now we get to resolve actions. So I'm going to start out over here because the more resources I have, the more options I have for building stuff. So let's actually start with this one. I'm going to spend 2 iron ore over there and convert that into 4 Atlantium bars. My people get to work smelting away some ore into Atlantium. They've clearly found a little underground bubble that was protected from the ocean. And that tile remains flooded. Then I will resolve this one. They will roll a single die, and we're looking for a 3. And we got a 5. Overkill. They spent a lot of extra effort digging up that one little nugget of ore. Okay, over here, looking for a 4. And that's a 2. I am going to burn my mystic energy, 1, 2, to convert that 2 into a 4, because I need to succeed at getting this stuff. So let's get a crystal. And then over here, 1 more roll with +2 because of the automaton. Ouch. Okay, that's just an outright failure because I have no mystic energy left to manipulate the dice. So that wasn't very good. The automaton clearly malfunctioned that time. And my last worker is over here. I will construct a component of the cosmic gate. Step 1 of 10 to winning the game. So I now have options because I've got all this Atlantium. So let's see, what does this one do? Place 1 mystic barrier and gain 1 mystic energy. Ooh. Okay, that is a contingency field, which gives us an extra worker placement space that we can send our people to in the future. You'll see that it has a little D on the tile, and that's also part of scaling the difficulty. You will have some tiles that say A, some say B, some say D, and some say C. And you'll use different numbers of the different letters depending on the difficulty you're playing with. So you'll see that this is quite a complicated one because this is from the D stack, which is the more difficult components to build. So I decided to give myself a bit of a challenge today, and as you can see, it's not going terribly well. Okay, so I'm going to build this though, because I have all the resources I need. So that is 4 Atlantium. All my Atlantium is gone. I smelted it and then immediately converted it into a contingency field. So that is 4 Atlantium, 1 crystal and 1 gold. And now we flip it over and we add it to the cosmic gate over here. Now we have an extra space that we can send workers to do this action, which is to place 1 mystic barrier and gain 1 mystic energy. So that's going to be a really good space, but as you can see, it's got these sort of fused spaces. So it's like the cities over here where you have to send 2 workers to do that action. But totally worth it, I think, because it usually costs 4 mystic energy to place a mystic barrier. So being able to do it with just 2 workers, that is very powerful. So you really do want to focus on building these in the right order, not necessarily just the ones you can, because sometimes they can be very helpful in game. You'll see some of them, like that, have got these extra spaces to work on, and some of them don't. Some of them are just blank at the bottom. So these blank ones are one-time benefits. For instance, this pressure keel allows you to shuffle all calm seas back into the misfortune deck. So as you saw, we drew a calm seas card earlier. So if you build this, you can immediately take all the calm seas that you've drawn and shuffle them back in here, thus stacking the deck with more good cards and less bad ones. But it only happens once when you build it. So we'll leave that over there. And we will Endure the wrath of the gods. This will tick over. We will claim a mystic energy for the next round. We will flood 2 tiles. Let's flood this one over here. And we'll flood this one over here. Okay. So you'll see I'm trying to flood them in such a way that we keep the edges flooded, because what can happen if, for instance, we have flooded all the way down, let's say all of these were flooded, like that, and now we draw a Forges card from the deck, and you've already flooded all the tiles of that peninsula, you have to then flood 2 other tiles somewhere else in the peninsula. So you don't really want to just let one peninsula go to rack and ruin. You want to try and protect all of them equally. So I think I'm going to wrap it up there for today. You've seen pretty much all the major elements of the game. We finally built a component. The island is rapidly sinking beneath our feet. And you'll just keep doing this. You'll keep going round and around and around, gathering resources, building stuff. Gather, build, gather, build, gather, build. And you're trying to build all 10 components, so all 9 of these pieces. And then once you've built all 9 of these, everyone at the table has to contribute to building the power core. So in a solo game, just one player, but in a 2, 3, 4 player game, every player has to send their leader to a space over there. So we'll just say this is another leader, and they'll have to go there. And everyone has to contribute at least one of the things required to build the power core. You'll see that I've put 2 over here. Now, these spaces can accommodate more than 1 Atlantean. If I were playing a multiplayer game, and I went over there to build, say, this component over here, I've got all the gold I need and the crystal, but I don't have the Atlantium. But maybe another player at the table does. So they could come with their worker, we'll say this is another player's color, and they could go to that space with me, and we could together build that component. So that's how the building over there works. And then once you've combined all your resources together and built the power core, you flip it over, and you teleport off the island and you save the people of Atlantis. Or you plunge into the ocean depths and disappear for all eternity, which is looking like the more likely result from today's game. So, with that, I will say thank you ever so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the show.